Contact report 165.
Then I must also look for no other solution and can immediately raise a question. Elizabeth complained to me yesterday that she always has difficulties with the meditation because she becomes regularly attacked by a racing pulse and racing heart, etc. I could not give her any information concerning this, however, because I did not know where it comes from. That is, I only see one possibility as to when such symptoms arise, but I am not sure if this is actually so. In my opinion, it can only be the case that Elizabeth generates rather bad swinging waves through her whole being, as you mentioned this once, which are trying to be neutralized by the entire circle. Nevertheless, the still weak selfishness and power craze of Elizabeth defends itself against this by all means, but it is senseless and pointless because the whole circle has much greater forces than those that she can raise herself. So through this, she is subject to her own outbursts, which generates excitement in her and a racing heart, as well as a racing pulse.
That is of correctness, if it is actually like what was said. Her domineering V-sin inner nature must react in such a manner, but it does not go against the powers of the circle because these fight in logical gewalt against this negative, corrupt state in her. Her habit of influencing others with her very negative swinging waves fails here miserably and strikes back at her, which, by the way, will also appear to a much greater extent with Ingrid, even though up to now she has apparently made no such remarks toward you. But the fact that also with her, very strong and even degenerative defense reactions appear with the meditation, this is not to be dismissed out of hand because an inspection specifically carried out by me for this purpose has revealed this fact. Ingrid is, in fact, very strongly affected by a craze for domination, which expresses itself much more strongly than what is noticeable with Elizabeth toward the children. Until now, never have I experienced that children indulge so unnaturally, extensively, and intensively in agonizing crying as what is the case with Ingrid with her children and with those of Elizabeth. Their domineering swinging waves particularly affect the small children in such a manner that they feel excruciating pains in their emotional centers, which are so intense that they often cry. But this also carries over to the other children, which is usually only expressed, however, when they are no longer in the center, where their sufferings have vanished through the neutralizing swinging waves prevailing here. Particularly Ingrid gives no thoughts to these concerns, because she is still so biased in old, false, and crazy teachings that she does not recognize the truth, and therefore wrongfully looks elsewhere for the causes, namely at Elizabeth and at the group members of the center. But in truth, these causes do not lie with Elizabeth but with herself. But not only in reference to the children is this so, but also with regard to Elizabeth and her husband Ferdinand, who are strongly affected by these influences, and Ingrid still always misleads them into wrong actions and inspires them to do works that do not fall within their work areas. In this respect, Ingrid must learn very quickly to discard this behavior and to begin working herself. She has to fulfill her own duties herself, while Elizabeth and her husband fulfill theirs. It is not right that Ingrid only exercises a role of an idle woman, while Elizabeth and her husband or her child Melanie must perform her works. With us, who are much further developed in these matters, such machinations cannot and may not appear. Therefore, I will concern myself with preparing a daily work plan for Ferdinand, according to which he should work in the future, in which case he then has to ignore all animating suggestions of Ingrid toward the performance of the activities assigned to her as a woman. A man has his own duties, and so does a woman, and these are to be fulfilled by those concerned. And with that, I am back at Elizabeth, who should continue to fulfill the duty with regard to the meditation, even if it is not pleasing to her. Only through this will she learn in this respect to suppress her weak, domineering emotions, because there is no other way for her to do this. Thus, the meditation must be imposed on her as the most urgent duty. And concerning her smallest child, and also Ingrid's, I must, regrettably, still say that also the food leaves very much to be desired, for not enough nutritious, energizing, and solid food is given to these children. In particular, it traces back to the initiative of Ingrid, who, even in these respects, raises very strange and unrealistic thoughts and ideas that have a harmful effect. Very often, she also searches for the blame somewhere outside of herself. When she suffers from disturbing influences and swinging waves, after which she then assumes that outside, negative swinging waves have befallen her and influence her negatively. But that truly is not the case with her, except when she, as well as Ferdinand, fall into their extremely negative self-magnificence craze. Ingrid should thoroughly indulge herself once in your very well-described facts of the spiritual teaching, in which you have described the adversary's powers and their effects exceptionally well. These self-adversary powers and delusion-believing ideas of Ingrid alone are what very often influence her negatively.